Will the Sergeant of Arms, call this meeting of the House Banking and Consumer Affairs Committee into order. Thank you all for coming out today. We're not going to make the final four, but we are going to make the final calendar, and that's today. So, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Representative Barrett. Here. Bricken. Here. Camper. Here. Faison. Garrett. Here. Lind. Here. Sparks. Here. Vaughn. Here. Chairman Powers. Here. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Got a little housekeeping to do. First of all, item 4, House Bill 1434 has been taken off notice. Item number 12, House Bill 761 has been taken off notice. Item number 14, House Bill 965 has been taken off notice. And item number 17, House Bill 637 has been taken off notice. Okay, and now do we have any personal orders for the committee? Representative Sparks.
I want to welcome a couple of homeschoolers, Hannah Faulkner and James Jimmy. Stand up, Faulkner. They're the sons of Trey and Kristen Faulkner. I want to compliment this young man right here. Raise your hand, young man. Let everybody know who you are. We're at a Men of Valor talking about changing men's lives, and this young man from the audience raised his hand. He asked the whole panel, he said, what if fathers could spend more time with their sons and daughters instead of out gallivanting around? Wouldn't that help make a difference? And so y'all give this young group a well applause. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for being here today. And anyone else? Okay. If not, we're going to get ready to go. First bill is House Bill 1470 by Towns, and I do not see him, so we're going to roll that one to the Hill. Okay, House Bill 1468. Hold on just one moment. Okay, and House Bill 1468, we're going to roll to the Hill. House Bill 1467, we're going to roll to the Hill. Item number 5, House Bill 1310 by Representative Kumar. Chairman Kumar, is he here? We are going to roll him to the Hill too. House Bill 1480 by Chairman Halsey. Chairman Halsey, you're recognized. Got a motion? Got a second? Mr.
Aren't you happy somebody showed up?
We're tickled.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. House Bill 1480 deals with the bullion issues we've been working with for a long time, and although one of them got through, there's 3 more, and they're pretty complex, and it looks like needs some more time. So I'm going to ask you to roll this to the first calendar of 2024.
Without objection, roll to the first calendar of 2024. Hope we're all here then. And the next bill, Representative Halsey, you're recognized on House Bill 728.
728 was the ESG bill, and I'm just being frank with you. In the Senate, it didn't even get a second in the Senate in a Republican-controlled committee with a Republican presenting a bill. I've been working on this since last summer, so the lobbyists did a fine job on this, so I'm going to ask to take it off notice.
Okay, without objection, House Bill 728 taken off notice, and House Bill, you're also recognized on House Bill 1477.
I understand there's a great deal of contention on this one. I would like to ask you if you estimate that your calendar is lengthy enough that you're going to be back next week. If it is, I'd like to roll this to the Hill. If you're going to get done today, Okay, let me just explain it before I take it off notice.
Okay, please, you're welcome for your explanation.
But the dadgum lobbyist better bring me a hamburger next time she comes to my office, I'll just tell you. This bill was brought to me by a financial group here in Nashville. And we are, last time I checked, we were number 5 on what's best for trusts of what states are best. South Dakota was number 1. They were attempting to put some things in place to help trusts, and trusts have come a long way in Tennessee. And they're the ones who wrote this bill to add us to make us number 1 in the country. There's some issues with it, and I'm not sure that I can even explain it because a lot of financial stuff is over my head. So I probably will try again next year. So with that, I'll take it off notice.
All right, House Bill 1477 taken off notice. Thank you, Chairman Helsing. Okay, and the next bill up is House Bill 528 by Representative Thompson. Is he in? Just barely made it. Representative Thompson, you're up on House Bill 528. We'll give you a moment to catch your breath. Got a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you give me about 10 seconds to get my notes out here?
Somebody put him on the clock.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. There is an amendment to this.
Okay, and the number on you have?
Is 5363.
Okay, and that's the amendment that we have, and we had a motion and a second. All in favor of putting House Bill, the amendment 5363 on the bill, please say aye. All opposed? It's on the bill. Now you get to explain the bill as amended, please.
Well, thank you. We do have an untimely amendment. I understand that the committee doesn't want to take it up today, but we will have it ready should it pass through subcommittee today.
Okay, thank you for
Thank you.
understanding that.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, many homeowners across the state have fallen prey to out-of-state real estate investors and companies looking to make an unsolicited cash offer to buy a property owner's home. These offers often come in the form of pesky and annoying text messages, phone calls, postcards, and sometimes even in-person door knocks. And many of us have received them. I know I have many times, about every day, in fact. House Bill 528 limits the amount of time a homeowner can be contacted within a calendar year by a person making an unsolicited offer to purchase their property. The bill allows the homeowner some relief and remedy by allowing a homeowner to file a complaint to the Consumer Affairs Division of the Attorney General's office if the homeowner believes the buyer has violated the limitation. The bill exempts licensed real estate agents. It requires the buyer to disclose all affiliate businesses if a complaint is reported, and assess up to a $1,500 civil penalty if the buyer is found in violation, which would hopefully yield some maximum profit for the owner or seller, not for the home buyer. This has come about through work with the Attorney General's office, the Tennessee Realtors Association, and the Rebuilding Together Nashville organization, which the Senate sponsor has worked on. So in closing, no one should suffer incessant harassment just because they own a home. It's time that we create some guardrails to protect Tennessee and especially our senior citizens from these deceptive, high-pressure tactics. The goal of this legislation is to make sure that no one in Tennessee is tricked or pressured into selling their family's most valuable asset. And thanks you for your attention. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and thank you for the explanation. And members, do we have any questions? Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
Representative Thompson, I'm in violent agreement with the last segment, portion that you read. It's the problem. I've got a problem with the words on the amendment, and the reason being is, if I'm a real estate professional, development professional, and I offer to buy someone's property, and they say, you know, that's too low. You know, I wouldn't take less than $200,000 for it.
Okay.
So I have to wait 365 days after I go through and repencil my project and see if I can make it work at $200,000.
Now, are you a licensed real estate agent?
No, I'm a developer. I'm their next door neighbor. Let's say I'm the next door neighbor, and I want to buy their home. Then, if I go back and make them another offer, then I'm technically in violation of this. I understand the part about wanting to get rid of the pressuring and the less than honorable tactics that some people use. And I'm also about educating homeowners about what the value of their property and not yielding to just incessant badgering. I understand that. But at the same time, the way the bill is written is that someone who is a legitimate business person doing legitimate work would get trapped by this, and therefore I just cannot support it.
Okay. I understand your feeling on that, and perhaps there could be something changed in the future. But right now, the aim, of course, is not for the legitimate business person, but by the predatory people calling and solicitors.
Chairman Vaughn.
And I think that you can look and see that this committee has looked favorably. I know that we passed a bill out that Chairman Haston had all with regards to the unsolicited offers through the mail and that were along this pressuring tactic. So I'm all about cleaning up the marketplace if we can find a way to do that. But in this case, the net is cast so broad that you're going to catch legitimate folks who are just trying to present economic opportunities to people with their property. And that's a hard line to draw, is what is a legitimate, fair offer and what is does someone miss out on the offer of a lifetime because they've already been contacted once in a year's time? I think that's an unfortunate unintended consequence of us putting like something in this place. Like I said, if we're going to talk about education for property values for people, if we're going to talk about the tactics that people use with regards to bullying and pressuring, ethics, all of that kind of stuff I'm about. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to create a law that traps honest, hardworking people who are trying to do the right thing by them and theirs, and also the people that they may be making the offer to, getting trapped by a law that came out of a situation to where it was narrowly focused to where it was only dealing with the problem. You know, this was a proposed solution to a problem that might be another way to skin that cat while also not trapping people who are not using this type of tactics. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from on it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, may I have just a moment?
Yes. Representative Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Vaughn has made some very good points. We would like to re-examine the bill, and therefore, if we can, would like to roll it until, I'll just say at this point, the second calendar in 2024. This is the last meeting of this
Right,
committee,
correct.
right?
Yeah. You want to roll it to the first calendar or the second calendar?
Can we make it the second?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Without
need to get my head into the into the session. You know,
Okay,
so
without
it takes me a
objection.
couple weeks.
Second calendar next year, 2024.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the next bill up is House Bill 160 by Chairman Boyd. Do we have a motion and a second? Chairman Boyd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee. And Mr. Chairman, last time I voiced how much I missed being on this committee. You shot me down, and so I won't say that again. But I will tell you that
We really do miss you.
I
was
do
just
have a
kidding,
couple
yeah.
of amendments to put on this bill.
And the First Amendment number you have?
I've got 5791, Mr. Chairman.
That's what we have. Do
Okay.
we have a motion and a second on the amendment? And a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed? The amendment's added. And the next amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I have amendment drafting code 6268.
That's what I have. Motion on the amendment? And a second? Okay. All in favor saying, putting 6268 on it? Aye. All opposed? Didn't even give you a chance, but you're up for explanation on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the committee. Members, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, as recent as January of this year, we had about 116,000 unemployed Tennesseans on unemployment benefits. Yet there are around 265,000 open jobs in Tennessee. And this committee, both your subcommittee and the Full Commerce Committee, has made great breakthroughs with regard to unemployment over the last few years. One of the coolest things that we did was indexing the benefit period to inflation. We've got a new computer system, and we've done a lot of things, but one of the things that I think needs to be done, and this bill seeks to do, is it addresses the issue of ghosting, and that is when people are drawing unemployment benefits and they apply for a job which counts toward one of their requirements to continue drawing unemployment benefits, and then they don't show up for an interview. And so what this bill would do is it would create a route for the employer when they get ghosted to report that to the Department of Labor, and then the person would lose their benefits for that 1 week that they did that. The bill also seeks to increase the number of job applications or application-like activities that a person would do from 3 to 5 a week, Mr. Chairman. And so that's what this bill seeks to do. I think it's a great idea, and I would love this committee's support.
Yes, we all think our bills are great ideas, don't we? Okay. And do we have any questions for the sponsor? And Chairman Bricken, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the sponsor. Just a question on the 5 applications or 5 contacts. In this day and time of online applications and such, what qualifies? I mean, can you go to workforce? Can you just fill out an online application, do an online inquiry, and satisfy one of the 5?
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Bricken, I thought you'd never ask. And so I have these in front of me here. And so the following actions are acceptable work search activities that count toward the requirement. And that is a department-approved job search or skills assessment, completion of a department-approved job search plan, participating in an on-the-job training opportunity, taking a civil service exam, developing a complete resume in the state's employment service system, submitting a resume to an employer, completing and submitting a job application to an employer, attending and completing an interview with an employer, or attending a job fair, or completing a skills test assigned by an employer as part of an interview process.
Chairman Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if they would have to somehow document an online application to that they completed or to the department somehow. But they could do a number of online applications to satisfy this, I assume.
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, if they complete any of these, including applying online for a job, if it was one of the, currently they do 3 activities, and so we would raise that to 5. And if one of those 5 was applying for a job, and then the employer set up an interview and they didn't show up, then that would knock them out of benefits for that week.
Just last, but I mean,
Chairman Bricken.
again, in this online digital world, satisfying one of those, I mean, those 5 requirements seems like would be a lot easier. It's not like they have to get in a car and go anywhere anymore.
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's right. Applying for a job is very easy now, and one should be able to do it from the comfort of their home.
Okay, thank you. Leader Camper, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned about it appears to me that this amendment is saying if you fail to appear for the job interview, not the 5 ways that you can apply and do the things you just described. So if I'm a person who had a job interview scheduled and ended up in a hospital, you could terminate without any reason. I mean, I have no appeals or what, how can I mitigate that? Because this is specifically if I have a job interview and I don't make it. The person could call and say, they didn't make it, no resources this week. And I could be in the emergency room. Is there any way to mitigate something like that?
Chairman Boyd.
Or am I off?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the administrator at the department would have some discretion there. I mean, we're not forcing their hand on this. If they could prove that you know, if they prove that they were sick or something like that happened and they were excused, then that would be acceptable. But if they simply ghosted with no evidence, then they would lose their benefits for that week.
Leader Camper, did you have a follow-up?
I don't see that. I'm sorry. Can you show me where that is in here? I don't see that that's addressed. I could be wrong.
Chairman Boyd.
Mr. Chairman, that would be in section D.
Thank you. If you don't mind, let me find that, please.
Okay.
So I can read that,
You want me
Mr.
to
Chairman.
come back? Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I've got it right here. So
Chairman Boyd,
a
go
claimant shall not be considered ineligible in any week of unemployment for failure to comply with the subsection A if the failure is due to an illness or disability that occurred after the claimant has registered for work and no work that would have been considered suitable at the time of the claimant's initial registration has been offered after the beginning of the illness or disability. The administrator may, however, in the administrator's discretion, require the claimant to obtain and submit a certificate by a duly licensed physician as to the illness or disability with respect to each week that the illness or disability exists.
Leader Camper.
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Boyd, this does seem to be addressing a problem that is out there. My daughter works in HR, and boy, she gets very frustrated with people ghosting. The thing I'm interested in is the details. Lots of people apply for jobs. Sometimes you have a current job and you apply for a job, and then maybe they call you for an interview and you decide, oh, maybe I'm happy here, I won't go. How is an HR person to know whether the person who's applied for the job is currently on unemployment, not on unemployment? What if people get wise and they say, well, I'll use my middle name and last name to apply for this job, and at unemployment I've used my full legal name, different things like that. So how are those details overcome?
Chairman Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first of all, this is permissive. It doesn't require employers to do that. But if they wanted to and they felt like they were, and this will most certainly create probably some employers that are reporting people that ghosted them that are not drawing unemployment benefits, that just simply take another job or something of that nature. But if they are found to have ghosted and they used that job application as a premise for getting unemployment benefits for that week, And it does have the discretion. I mean, there's a human being here. It's not like the employer goes and just physically knocks them off the list. Someone would have to verify this information. So we think it'll be handled well because it's still handled by the administrator there at the department.
Okay, any other questions for the chairman? I do have one. Would you consider this a Ghostbuster bill?
Mr. Chairman, that's exactly what I would consider it.
Okay, okay. If we have no other questions, we're going to, without objection, we're going to vote. So all in favor? House Bill 1060 passes, and you are headed to Finance. Is that correct?
Thank you, Chairman of the
I'm
committee.
sorry, Commerce. I'm sorry. Full Commerce. I'm sorry. Bill 673 by Representative Johnson. Representative Johnson, you are recognized. Got a motion? And a second. Representative Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this bill does is create paid family leave for anyone in Tennessee who works full-time. Nearly 80% of workers in the South do not have access to paid family leave, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. House Bill 673 would address this problem without burdening employers by creating a paid family and medical leave insurance fund that's entirely employee-funded. This bill provides Tennessee with up to 12 weeks of paid leave for care for a new child or a serious ill family member or to recover from your own illness. It also provides paid leave to military families who are dealing with the deployment of a loved one. By contributing a modest amount each week, about the same as a cup of coffee, employees would pay into the fund and could draw from it in the case of a family or medical emergency. Similar to other programs like Social Security, for example, everybody would contribute and everyone would receive direct benefits from the fund. Research shows that paid family leave helps improve employee recruitment, retention, productivity, and morale. In today's tight labor market, paid leave is an important tool to keep those with medical or caregiving needs attached to the workforce. It's often more cost-effective for a business to allow an employee to take paid leave rather than risk losing that employee altogether and bearing the cost of rehiring and retraining a replacement. This bill would especially make a small business more competitive by allowing them to provide a benefit that often only larger companies are able to offer. At its core, this legislation is about supporting Tennesseans during the most important and often most difficult moments of their life. At some point, we will all either provide care or need it ourselves, whether we are recovering from an illness, welcoming a new child, or caring for an aging parent. House Bill 673 promotes family economic security and keeps people attached to the workforce, all without burdening employers. I urge you to vote yes on this important legislation.
All right, thank you for that explanation. Do we have questions on the bill? Anyone? Chairman Bricken.
I must not have enough heat in my hands. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. Private sector employees certainly can have, I guess, hour banks, days banks that provides that all employees of that company chips in. I know the state of Tennessee has a sick bank, sick leave bank. So I think the private sector certainly has options to take care of this. And the other one, I don't see any minimum number of employees. So somebody that had one employee would be subject.
Actually,
Representative Johnson.
works. Thank you. Actually, it works with a sole proprietor.
Wow.
They are able to use this as well.
And well, again, I think that's pretty ambitious. So anyway, those are my two questions. And if it was to get out of here, best of luck on that fiscal note too. So anyway, thank you.
Representative Johnson.
Yes, and actually, They did a better job on the fiscal note, but the point is, it clearly states in the bill that the fund will pay for any cost to the state. So it will reimburse for those initial costs. Those initial costs will be reimbursed to the state as the fund starts gathering. Other states have done this, and they have reimbursed the state as the fund gathers its monies.
Any other question? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the bill, Representative. How are you planning to determine how much goes in each individual have to pay to go into the fund?
A lot of those rules.
Representative Johnson.
A lot of those rules, those will be determined by the state. There's going to be definite rulemaking on this. That'll be up to them. But typically, it's around $4 a week is what it's been. And that's a very reasonable amount of money. I've talked to workers across the spectrum. This is really going to benefit those small businesses that can't provide those things for their employees. But by it being an employee-paid fund, they are able to compete with those other folks. And even low-wage workers have said they're completely willing to contribute that much, so that in the case of taking care of an aging parent or having a child, that they would be able to get 12 weeks of paid leave. I initially brought this legislation because within 1 year, I had 3 friends who all had triplets. And one was a police officer, one was a firefighter, and one owned her own business. And it was so hard for them to do this because you have to have, with a C-section, it's automatically 6 weeks out. And none of them had 6 weeks leave, and certainly not 6 weeks paid leave. So this is just going to help so many families, and it's something that overwhelmingly has worked in the other states that have done it. And it's 91% successful both with employees and employers.
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I imagine this would happen in rulemaking too, but do you expect that the money will have to go into this fund and then a year or so later before people can actually start withdrawing? How would that work?
Yeah, so what they would have to do.
Representative Johnson.
Sorry about that. What they would have to do is put in for a year before they would be able to request that leave. And that would follow all the regular guidelines of family leave that as far as making the request for it to be granted. But they would have to put in for a year before they would be able to use it.
Leader Camper, do you have a follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't. Thank you, Representative.
Representative Lynn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where I work, we can buy a lot of different health insurance, but we have a product called Aflac, and what it is you can buy short-term disability, you can buy long-term disability, you can buy hospital insurance or critical care insurance, which is basically cancer insurance, but any one of those products, you can buy them separately. And I was just looking at the website, and they will sell to you and your spouse, your spouse and children, all of that. So is this sort of a program for an insurance product sort of like that, where it's a short-term disability product where, if you have an illness and you have to be out for a little while, it will pay part of your salary to you and your family while you're out so that you are not absent those funds. We do have a lot of employees who, more than you would believe, purchase this insurance from or through our company, but anybody can purchase this, and this is not an Aflac commercial, but anyone can purchase this on their own. I've just been looking, so I was curious about that.
Representative Johnson.
Yes, they can, but when you go through an insurance company, there's a lot more money taken out than just what would go in as an employee. You're not going to find that it's going to be $4 a week. That is just not going to happen. And so what this does is eliminate, it is an insurance, but you get it through the state, so that therefore, I think there's a bill coming through right now that's more of an insurance for paid family leave, but no one can say what the price would be on that. And I can guarantee you it's not going to be $4 a week. because then the insurance company has got to take their cut out of it, and we can do this without them.
Okay. Any other questions for the sponsor at this time? Had a couple real quick. How does this conflict or coincide with federal Family Leave Act that's currently in place?
Well, you can take that leave, but you are not paid. This would be alongside that, but you would be paid.
Okay.
So the problem is with the federal is that people often disconnected from the workforce because they can't maintain that job if they can't have pay when they leave. What we also see, of course, is people going on benefits because of this. And if we have this type of a program and it's paid for through the fund, our state will no longer be paying SNAP benefits and things like that for these folks.
Okay. Thank you for that. And what's the current status of this in the Senate right now?
I think it might have failed in the Senate. I'm not positive.
Yes, it has failed in the Senate. Do you want to continue, or do you want to take it off notice, or?
I'll just go ahead and continue.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Got a question? Okay. We're going to be voting on House Bill 673. I'm sorry. Hold on one minute. Okay, the question's been called, so all in favor of House Bill 673, say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. The noes have it. Sorry, the bill fails, and thank you for your hard work on this. Okay, the next one up is, that one's taken off. That's off notice in it, 13. Sorry. Item number 13, House Bill 846 by Representative Fritz. And Representative Fritz, you're recognized. Got a motion and a second. And I think we have an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Amendment 6130, making the bill.
That's what we have. We have a motion on the amendment and a second. All in favor of putting 6130 on the bill, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The amendment goes on the bill. Please give us an explanation of the bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Good afternoon. I'll speak first to the amendment we just added. It was added to request the Tennessee Department of Financial Institution. It clarifies that the 90-day notice being required by this legislation will not apply to cases when there's suspected financial abuse of the elderly or other vulnerable adults. As amended, 846 is a piece of legislation seeking to protect small business owners in Tennessee. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are more than 600,000 small businesses in Tennessee. 470,330 of those, according to our research, are so-called non-employer firms. These are entities like sole proprietorships and partnerships where the owners of the businesses do the work to be done. There are also more than 142,000 businesses that employ fewer than 100 people. I would offer to you that this is a protect and secure our freedoms bill. Why is this legislation needed? Online marketplaces, payment processing services, and financial entities are holding or freezing funds of those businesses who do not fall in line with their political or social agendas in some cases. This is usually done without any warning to the business owner or any reasons why the actions were taken. Most of these small businesses do not have the reserve capital or the cash flow to be able to withstand the holding or freezing of those funds for long periods of time. There are numerous examples of this. I'll go through quickly and can provide more information if you would like it. Example number one, settlement reached after PayPal had frozen an account for over a year. This was reported by Don Dare of WATE-TV up in Knoxville. And the message that we extracted from that were these words. And then a message came through. This is the lady speaking. And then there was a message came through that they were going to hold my funds for 80 days, says Mrs. Small. She had no access to her money, and when her baby was about to be born. As a result, her bills were mounting, and to make ends meet, Mrs. Small took out a title loan with high interest rates. Then in January of that year, PayPal informed her that they were freezing her account for another 180 days. Example number 2, PayPal Holdings, Inc. violated racketeering by freezing customer accounts according to a lawsuit filed by 3 claimants. This was reported by Bloomberg in 2022. PayPal reportedly freezes Moms for Liberty accounts. This was reported by a Tampa station in July of 2022, and this brought about an effort by Governor DeSantis to fight some of the woke ideology that was impacting these folks. There's a Canadian government example I will not offer you all. There was a Facebook ban that impacts businesses, according to the New York Times in 2020. These businesses included organizations that provided socks to homeless people, and this was taken from the New York Times in 2020. Facebook parent Meta was fined $25 million for violating the law, according to NPR in 2022, for similar campaign finance and holding of money. This even happens in Harriman, Tennessee, which happens to be part of my district. Your American Flag Store owner was notified by PayPal that his account was going to be frozen. I have a letter that for the sake of time, I will not read unless you all ask me to read that, and I'll be happy to. But the short of that simply was that this company that makes wooden flags, 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional wooden flags, was notified that their account was going to be frozen. Their account was frozen with approximately $80,000 in that account. These were $80,000 that PayPal had collected, according to the owner, as a result of flags that they were selling around the United States. By the time that all the freezes had taken place, that figure was at about $110,000. So this is the cash flow for this small business in Harriman to keep providing those products out to their customer base. After several phone calls, the employment of a well-known national attorney, and several appearances on national news networks, all of the money was refunded back to this owner except for $10,000. According to the owner, he was told at this time that they would refund the final $10,000 if he would sign a non-disclosure agreement not to talk about it. And so he refused to sign that. I heard about this actually knocking on doors when I ran for office. It touched my heart that these large companies are able to impact small businesses that way. So I offer you this bill. I ask for your support on it. It is, I think, very simple in that it does not apply to banks. It does not apply to FSLICs or state or federal credit unions. It is an online payment system bill. And we did add in the language that we were offered by Mr. Staley to make sure that we were protecting against the exploitation against our elders. So with that, I'll pause and take any questions you have, and thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. And do we have questions for the sponsor? Anyone? Yes, Chairman Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And when the sponsor came by and talked to me about this bill, I was a little bit concerned because in West Tennessee, there was a company called the Rustic Flag Company that was owned by Justin Scott in Trenton, Tennessee, that basically got $3.6 million from almost 23,000 customers and failed to deliver those rustic flags. So obviously it's a different company than you're dealing with, but I wanted to kind of clarify that kind of for the record, that obviously I'm not sure what goes on in the flag company business, but it's a totally different operation anyway. So,
thank you. Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that input. We did talk about that, and I'm not familiar with this company in West Tennessee. Your American Flag Store is located in Harriman.
Do we have anyone else got a question on the bill? I'm sorry, Representative Sparks.
No, I appreciate you bringing the piece of legislation. I too had someone in my district bring up something on this, like PayPal, and we made a phone call, got them their money. It wasn't that significant, but it was still significant to them. So thank you for this legislation.
Yes.
Representative Fritz, any comment? Chairman Vaughn, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And given the late hour, I would just ask the bill sponsor if you would be willing for us to continue to kind of call this a work in progress so that we may bring forward some amendments to it in full committee. Because I don't I mean, the anecdotes that you provide are terrible. I mean, you know, folks ought not have to deal with that. Sure. But there's always seemingly another side of the story. And so if we could if you'd be willing to work with us and massage this as we go to the full committee, that would sure help me. And I appreciate the amendment dealing with the fraud, because I don't understand what the 90 days is because if somebody warns me they're going to freeze my money in 90 days, there's not going to be any money to freeze. So it might be the case in point. But so if you'd be willing to work on this so that we make sure that legitimate operators are not caught in this trap, I would appreciate it, and I would be happy to support your bill.
Representative Fritz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that. Yes, I am willing to work as we go into full committee, and I appreciate the help on it. Thank you.
Chairman Faison.
Thank you. In committee, I wanted to give y'all I'm certainly supportive of this, interested in whatever amendments, and give you another anecdotal that actually happened to me and the chairman of Budget Sub. Beginning of this year, I sent him our rent. We rent a condo together. PayPal took the money out of our account and then didn't give it to him. We called 4 or 5 days later, and they gave us the runaround. Asked my bank to get the money back out. PayPal refused to give it back to us. They took so long that my wife and I had to actually write a check in spite of that money for our condo to pay for our rent. And it still took all the way, it's like a month and a half, close to 2 months before they would release the money to the chairman of Budget Sub. There is certainly an issue with PayPal, and they refused to work with us on the phone. We called, we had our bank call, he called, I called. They just completely locked down, would not give us our money back. And so certainly we're not using them now. So I'm just saying it's more than just an anecdotal evidence, because they did it to me and the chair of Budget Sub. So I'm with the chair. I don't know if the whole 90-day things fix it, but if there's something we can do to make sure in Tennessee they don't do that to other Tennesseans, whether it's private or a business, that's not right.
Representative Fritz, comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would just offer that the 90 days would indeed give the opportunity for the person to recover their funds so that they weren't lost. And that was the intent of that. And this is not just a PayPal bill. It is online. Those are tremendously convenient services that we all use, and we appreciate them. It just seems like sometimes when companies get so large and they're detached from the user, that they feel empowered to not return the calls or not respond to Mr. Stocky and Harriman and hold his money. And he was, again, I won't try to read the letter, but on a couple occasions he was given that same, we're going to extend your hold or your freeze for another 180 days. And that's a death sentence to a small business.
Okay. Leader Camper, I'm sorry, we already had her down.
Okay, that's all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Vaughn asked my question. I was concerned about the 90 days, and I was curious, was this just kind of a PayPal thing, or were you talking about other platforms? But you just answered that question. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking back your question.
Representative Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't belabor the point, but to Mr. Faison's example, I too personally have had an negative experience with my account being deleted completely by the same carrier less than 30 days after I announced that I was running as a Republican. I've emailed, I've called, I've presented multiple pieces of evidence showing that I did actually have an account, and despite all my protestations, they refused to acknowledge that I even had an account that ever existed with them. So I like your bill. I support your bill. If you'll bring me a sign-on sheet, I'll co-sponsor it with you.
And Chairman Vaughn.
That'll teach you to run. No, what I wanted to say is that, for those who are in front of this committee oftentimes, how I loathe the government being involved in business. But if you want to invite us into your business, you become a nefarious operator. And that's what government is meant to regulate. And so from that standpoint, I don't have a problem with us try to figure out to reach in and bring some fairness into the marketplace. And so that's why I'm a vote for your bill today, Mr. Fritz.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I think we're ready to vote. All in favor of House Bill 846, say aye. All opposed? No. There is no. The ayes have it. And you are headed to Commerce.
Thank you,
And
Mr. Chairman and
Representative
committee.
Fritz.
Thank you all.
And it's him. Yes. Item number 15, sorry, House Bill 1231 by Representative Himmer. I can't help but say that, but it's Himmer time.
Thank you, thank you.
And you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second, and we have an amendment.
Thank you, yep. And I do have an amendment that makes the bill.
And we've got a motion on the amendment, we have a second, and motion and a second. All in favor of putting, what's your amendment number on there? Do you have?
006128.
6128, that's what we have. All in favor of putting an amendment on the bill, please say aye. All opposed, the same. The ayes have it. The amendment goes on, and please explain the bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and to the chairman's point, this is a lot about fairness in marketplaces, and wanted to first call out, I know we have so many staff members that serve us that do a lot of the heavy lifting, and a little background on this bill actually was done and drafted and worked on by my legislative assistant, Catherine, who is here today. A few months ago, she was, like a lot of people in the state, very disappointed they did not get their Taylor Swift tickets, and I promised if I was able to get up here that I'd let her look into it and figure out what are some things we can do to make marketplaces more fair. Upon our research, we found there was already some, thanks to the wisdom of the General Assembly, some bills about bots, but we found another issue that was, currently bubbling at the federal level, but not quite ready. And so this is around, this bill does two things. This legislation addresses transparency in pricing and bad actors deceiving consumers with deceptive URLs. And so Catherine was able to work with the Attorney General's office, with venues, with the ticket industry, artists to really come up with something that really is common sense and really would help consumers. So on the first point on the transparency and pricing, the number of ticket marketplaces continue to grow, but consumers have difficulty comparing prices across the various marketplaces that disclose fees and price differently. This bill simplifies the ticket purchasing process for the consumers through transparent pricing. In other words, the first price consumer sees when they select a ticket for purchase should be the final price that a consumer pays. No surprises during the checkout. The second thing is ticket brokers routinely use websites, URLs featuring language or images of an artist, venue, team, or entertainment venue, which deceives consumers by giving the false appearance of an official or legitimate ticket selling channel. So furthermore, these ticket brokers rarely disclose the face value tickets that are generally still available on the venue's ticket sales website at the original face price set by the artist, which is generally lower than the price set by resellers or resale marketplaces where ticket brokers list resale. So this bill would ban the practice of deceptive URLs and by making sure no person can use a website or display a trademarked or copyrighted URL or other mark symbol without the written consent of the rights holder. There is current language about deceptive URLs in the code, but it is very broad. So this legislation clarifies it as it relates to ticket sales. So we're really seeing strong bipartisan support for these issues at the federal level, but we really want Tennessee to lead on this issue. And so it's all about protecting consumers and transparency. So I hope you'll support this consumer-facing focused legislation that will protect Tennessee music fans in the evolving world of event ticketing.
Okay, any questions for the sponsor? Yes, Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for this legislation. Maybe you can clarify this. So a third party reseller, your legislation is making that third-party reseller disclose the original cost of the ticket from the origin.
Representative Hemmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, third-party reseller is defined as an individual firm, corporation, or entity that engages in business of reselling tickets to a place of entertainment, operates the internet website or electronic service that provides a mechanism of two or more parties to participate in a resale transaction, or facilitates resale transaction by means of an auction, or maintains an office or branch. Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay.
Representative Garrett.
No, I think I understand what a third-party ticket reseller is. What I'm asking is that reseller has to disclose the original cost of the ticket to whomever they're selling it to. So if I'm going to Bridgestone and I can walk up and buy a Taylor Swift ticket, which no one could, but if that was possible, and it was $100, I don't know how much Taylor Swift is. Probably that's cheap, but in any event. But if it was $100, if I purchased it directly from Bridgestone, this reseller sold it for $500. Do they have to disclose that the original cost of the ticket was $100?
Representative Hemmer.
No, I don't believe so. It would just be the price that they would be selling the ticket for.
Representative Garrett.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Sorry. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I think we're ready to vote on House Bill 1231. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 1231, you're headed to full commerce.
Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, we're going to jump around just a little bit without objection because we missed the good Dr. Chairman Kumar a minute ago. And you're recognized on House Bill 1310. Got a motion and a second. And I think we have do we have an amendment? Yes, we do have an amendment. And that amendment number?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, is 6046.
That's the amendment we have. All in favor of putting the amendment on the bill, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, and with that, we need to hear your explanation of the bill as amended, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we know, direct-to-consumer genetic testing is popular, interesting, and all over television. 20% of the American public has had this testing done, and it's a very popular holiday gift. This bill, very significant information about our genetic makeup, and of course, with the human genome having been fully mapped now, is thus available. And it can really predict our future life expectancy and other private matters. This bill protects the privacy and confidentiality of this information. It requires that the company will disclose to the consumer information about their collection, use, disclosure, access, and testing mechanisms, and prohibits the company from disclosing this information to a health, life, or long-term care insurer or employer, or as such to anybody else. Exemptions in this situation do include law enforcement as well as research institutions. I'll be happy to answer further questions.
Okay, and with that, we're going to go out of session just for a moment. We have some testimony from someone from Ancestry.com, Richie Englehart. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. But if you don't care, if you'll come up and pronounce it correctly and tell us who you're with, we'd appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Richie Englehart. I'm the head of government affairs with Ancestry, and here today on behalf of the Coalition for Genetic Data Protection in strong support of House Bill 1310. Ancestry is proud of the work that we've done with our coalition partners, including 23andMe, to implement common sense privacy protections and ensure consumers are in control of their genetic data at all times. The work on this bill dates back to 2017 when the Future Privacy Forum, a leading privacy nonprofit in D.C., convened consumer and privacy advocates, medical ethicists, companies, and legislators on the Hill. Together, they developed a privacy best practices document that includes what we believe are the appropriate guidelines for DTC genetic testing services. When states looked to regulate our industry a few years later, those best practices were translated into bill form. That bill before you today requires consumers to provide separate express consents. That means we cannot bury the consents in our terms of service or privacy policies and just hope that they see them for any collection, processing, or sharing of their genetic data. This bill would require separate express consent before we analyzed a biological sample, before we stored that biological sample for future testing, and that's optional. Viewing genetic relatives on the website, both parties have to consent, so it's actually a two-way opt-in consent. Using a consumer's genetic data for marketing purposes, and I'll note neither of our companies do that. It doesn't pass the creepiness test for us, but if somebody did want to use genetic information for targeted advertising, they would need to get a separate express consent for that. And for participating in research. If consumers opt in to participate in population-level genetic research, that actually kicks it into an informed consent process, the same as any clinical trial in the US or any human subject research. And of course, we would need separate express consent to share their data with any third party. This bill also empowers consumers to delete their data at any time and close their accounts, so they can end their relationship with us and we retain no rights to their data. This approach has broad bipartisan and stakeholder support. Since 2021, 6 states have passed this into law, including Arizona, California, Kentucky, Maryland, Utah, and Wyoming. This year, similar bills are in process in several states. Virginia has the bill on its way to the governor's desk, and Montana and Nebraska are close behind. So our consumers' trust is our top priority. If they don't trust us, they won't use us. So we believe that every direct consumer testing service should be held to the same standards for data privacy and protection. Urge a favorable report, and I welcome any questions that the committee members may have.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation. Full disclosure, I am a member and found out I was Irish. But anyway, do we have any questions for the, while we're out of session? Anyone? Representative Lynn.
I just saw last night, actually, the Epoch Times came out and reported on how China is accessing DNA data from just about, people in the world, but they will not allow any of the genetic data of their own people to be tested or given to any other business that's from a country outside of China. They absolutely will not allow that. They keep that all in China, but they are collecting as much DNA data as they can get on foreign people. So I thought that was very interesting. And it has to do with, perhaps there's a bioweapon or something that targets, but it's the Epoch Times, very interesting article, if you all want to Google it. But thank you.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I comment on that?
Sure.
We don't do business in China. We have some serious concerns with intellectual property issues in China. As you correctly noted, China does not allow their citizens to participate in DTC testing services. Beyond that, we don't market in China. We process all of our samples in the U.S., regardless of where they originate. So if you are a consumer in England and you want to do Ancestry DNA, that sample comes to Utah, gets sent to a processing facility, and American labs process the sample, and all of the data is kept in the U.S. And we do that to protect ourselves from any foreign interference.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate you coming out today. And with no objection, we're going to go back into session. And do we have any questions for the sponsor before we, Representative Lynn?
Mr. Sponsor, thank you so much for bringing this bill. It's very interesting. It looks like it's a good bill. But I have a question for you. You said that the police could access this data. Is that with a warrant? That would be with a warrant. Are you saying that this is simply on request?
Chairman Kumar.
The request for that exemption actually came from TBI in criminal investigation and crime solving. A lot of people have been exonerated or mysterious murders have been solved by that. So they are exempt from, in the sense that they are not treated as when they collect a sample and test it, they will not be treated as a direct-to-consumer company. They will not have the same things that they have to get informed consent from the person they are seeking the thing. And yes, it would be based on a warrant. Sure.
Okay, any other questions for the sponsor? If not, I think we're ready to vote. Do you want to make one last comment before we pass your bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank
Because we're running
Richie.
out of time.
I just want to thank Richie. He flew in from New York to eat Tennessee barbecue, I guess. But it's very important for an industry to be able to have strong laws to protect privacy and let that be known. And as he said, that is what gives people assurance so the services are used. But again, I'm grateful for him coming, and thank you.
Okay, without objection, we're going to be voting, and on House Bill 1310 by Chairman Kumar. All in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. And you are headed to full commerce. Thank you,
Thank you,
Chairman
Mr.
Kumar.
Chairman and committee.
Okay, the next one up is House Bill 1181 by Representative Garrett. Representative Garrett, you're recognized. We have a motion. Second. And a second. Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have an amendment. That amendment is 6288.
Okay. And thank you. I'm actually showing two amendments. Do you have two amendments or just one?
Right now, I believe it's just 6288. I will explain an amendment that might travel to full should this pass that's just clerical in nature, but I've just got amendment coded 6288.
Just one moment, please. Okay, yeah, we got a motion and a second on the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and you're up for explaining the bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the Tennessee Information Protection Act. This legislation has been following me around for the past couple of years, and it's now in a posture, I believe, where I could spend quite a bit of time here thanking all the folks that have helped me through this legislation with our stakeholders, the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce, and many, many others that have helped through this long legislation that will hopefully protect folks as they travel the internet. I've referred to it as protecting your virtual you. And just for some history, and I went through this last session, but I had a young fellow, and that young fellow now is 19 years old, but he was probably 11 or 12 living with me at the time. And he had an Instagram account, and a child predator got his information and started communicating with him, asking him to do certain things via email and via video. And when it got to my attention, I realized, and we had some investigation done, and I realized that his information was hacked. And this is how this person posing as someone his own age got his information online. So it got my wheels spinning on what else is out there. What do we put out there online when we use our phones that is unprotected, that we don't know what we're doing? And so this legislation is designed to protect you as you travel the internet and your virtual you. And a lot of the heartburn that some folks received is it was a little bit, well, who does it apply to, right? How are we going to figure out what businesses is subjected to this particular legislation? And that would be under the scope. And we've fine-tuned where this would apply to those companies that collect data really to make their business work, like your TikTok, like your Facebook, like your Google, those entities that you interact with, some folks interact on a daily basis. And so what this does is it allows a consumer to basically still own, for a lack of a better word, what their data is that they collect. It allows them to ask a particular entity that this legislation applies to erase that data, to opt out of transferring that data or selling the data without the consumer knowing. It provides protections to a consumer if a company shall violate the statute by imposing a $7,500 fine per incident. There is no private right of action for a consumer, but it's driven by the Attorney General, that if the complaint takes place by a consumer, the Attorney General can pursue this company for violating someone's personal information as they travel the internet. Now, there's also many ways that a company can cure a particular violation. So it's not like we're going to have, boom, one violation, and all of a sudden they're going to be hammered with violations under this particular legislation. The companies have many ways to cure that violation. One of those is if they have a program called NIST, and it's a nationwide recognized privacy framework for protection. If they follow that or something similar to that framework, the companies have an affirmative defense. So obviously our AG would look at that and say, okay, they have this, then this doesn't rise to the level of a violation of this particular statute. So we've put protections for businesses that might oops their information, so we don't automatically have a lot of these consumer complaints that would bog down our businesses. So with that, Mr. Chairman, that is a very quick overview of the legislation. And again, I believe we're in a posture now where our business community is, I'm not going to say they're supporting it, but they're obviously neutral. They understand that this is needed. Like I said, it's in 4 other states right now, and I hope by more states get involved, we might have some federal guidance, but we know how Congress sometimes works. It takes a long time before a federal law might come into play in this particular space, but we don't have one right now. So this is the way I believe, and the business community, I would think, agrees, is the best way that we can protect Tennessee consumers as they travel the internet. And so as we reached an agreement as late as yesterday, I do have a small amendment to clean up some language. I do believe it's not so little that it's a technical correction, Mr. Chairman. So if it's appealable to the committee, there's 3 things that need to be amended in this, and basically in 3 different parts. There's one section that I need one word, which is the word may. Then there's another section regarding the NIST framework, and it just goes into if there's something else that's there that's designed similar to that, that's okay. And then there's one section regarding the scope. It's 100,000 consumers. That should have been 175,000 consumers. So those are my only 3 changes that I just didn't have time before we got to the deadline for the amendment that I'm going to be putting on full, if it's appropriate, with the committee for the Tennessee Information Protection Act. But this is born. I don't have any lobbying group that's been helping with me on this, but I've had a lot of help, and I understand it's in the Senate this afternoon. So I've been working the Senate today, and I'm going to be appearing in that committee for any assistance they may need to hopefully we can protect consumers as they travel the internet with the Tennessee Information Protection Act. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to take any questions on the legislation.
Thank you for that brief summary. Keeping in mind I only have 2% left on my iPad. Do we have any other
I'm a lawyer,
questions
Mr. Chairman. I
for the
speak in
sponsor?
paragraphs rather than sentences. So.
Any questions for the sponsor? Okay, without objection, we're going to be voting on House Bill 1181. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1181 is moving on to full commerce. Thank you, Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
And we only have one more bill to close out this committee, and that is House Bill 650 on the special calendar we're going to, and by Representative McCallum. Representative McCallum, you are recognized. We got a motion and a second. Can you please explain your bill, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee. I will be brief. I do speak in sentences. So I hope that doesn't kill this bill. This is going to be called the Booting Consumer Protection Act. In a nutshell, what it does, companies that go around putting vehicle mobilization devices. I'm sorry, sir?
I'm sorry, you got an amendment too. You want to?
Oh,
let's go ahead and
yes,
put that
sir.
on there.
I do have an amendment. It is 5820, and it rewrites the bill.
Okay, and second? Okay, all in favor of putting 5820 on the bill, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The amendment goes on the bill. Just one moment. Gotcha. Okay, you're recognized on the bill again, as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, this is the Booting Consumer Protection Act. What this does is basically it tells companies that are utilizing these vehicle mobilization devices, commonly known as boots, that if you are putting one on a car, you can not only take cash, you must take a credit card, and if you refuse to take a credit card, you must physically invoice the individual. There also has requirements for signage posted, as well as saying that you cannot pay these people installing these devices on commission. They have to be regular hourly employees. This only applies on private property. With that, will stand for questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the sponsor? Chairman Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, in my district, I don't think we have any booting companies. I'm just curious to know, do you have any estimates in Tennessee, the number of instances of booting?
Representative McCallum.
No, Representative, I do not. This actually came out of an event with one of our senators who had an employee that was parked on private property that they were permitted to park on. Company came out, put a boot on, and refused to take it off unless they paid cash. This was a young lady, 22 years old, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in an urban environment. So that's where this bill stemmed out of. I don't have actual total amounts of cases, no, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, without objection. We're going to be voting on House Bill 650. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 650, you move out to full commerce. Thank you, Representative McCallum.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
And we have just a couple of things to announce here before we close out real quickly. Yes, Representative Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I failed to acknowledge on this data privacy our legal department. I wore them out today, but also they've been worn out on it since this bill has been since its genesis. So I wanted to really appreciate their efforts on that legislation. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay, here we go. And the House Bill 1470 by towns, that's going to be rolled to the first calendar of 2024. House Bill 1468 by towns, there is no Senate bill, so we're going to take that one off notice. And House Bill 1467 by towns, that'll be rolled to the first calendar of next year, too. So with that in mind, do we have a motion to adjourn? All right. I'm sorry. Subject to the call of the chair. Thank you for reminding me of that. And thank you all for all the hard work. I really appreciate your help and your support. And we'll see you all next year. Adjourned.